All right, guys, it's football Sunday. I've got my Bengals gear, got my Boomer Esiason jersey. I'm ready to go. But because it is Sunday, I have an opportunity to interview Guy Mezger, MMA legend in my opinion, and one of the pioneers and forefathers of what this sport has now become. A lot of people don't know him. The younger guys are like, who's Guy Mezger? He's part of the Lions Den. You may have heard of Ken Shamrock and Frank Shamrock. Well, Guy was right there. Guy was considered truly a phenom. He's been the king of Pancrase. He's fought many events. He's fought the who's who of fighters. Tito Ortiz, Boss Rutan, Chuck Liddell. He's fought all these guys. I mean, it's amazing. Little Nog, Ricardo Rona. There's a ton of fighters that this guy has fought. He was, for me, the prototypical guy that just had bad luck when it came to injuries and decisions in the ring. But he gave it his all. He's a pioneer, again, a pioneer of the sport. And I am truly, truly honored to have him as my first athlete on 5 Questions with TBone. All right, Guy, having fought some of the biggest names in MMA, do you look back and truly realize what the sport has become since you first fought and how the rest of the Lions Den and your team were pioneers of the sport? And along those lines also, do you still keep in contact with any of your Lions Den teammates, and if so, which ones?
Well, that's a huge question. So, I think, okay, the first part of your question, the problem with the UFC when it first started was it wasn't really designed as a sport. It was designed as a marketing tool for the Gracies, really is what it was. And, because there were no rules, no times, no weight classes. And, in America, we like to pretend that we're civilized and we love our violence, but we like to put them within rules and constrictions and stuff, so we can call them games and stuff like that. And the UFC, totally broke that mold. And that's really why I think that still today is so popular, is really because of the roots of it being in, this no holds barred, no time limit, no rules type deal that to be honest, captured a lot of people's imagination. Like, because back then it really wasn't African against athlete. It was more a style against style. The Gracies were trying to prove, that Gracie Jiu-Jitsu or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was a superior martial art. And so they were challenging all these other, challenging all these other guys from kickboxing and wrestling and everything. Mm-hmm. And so that format, although romantic sounding, it didn't work out long term. And the original group was the Singapore Entertainment Group, who, they were entertainers. They knew nothing about fight promotion, obviously, because of the way they put stuff together, right?
Right.
And their arrogance is like, that this is going to be bigger than, anything that's going to happen to us with, state regulations and stuff like that. They're very arrogant. I remember being in UFC 3. They wanted me to fight in UFC 4. The site promoter for them was a guy named Buddy Albin, and he promoted fights, I thought, on his cards before. And he's the one that actually got me into the UFC. He said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And he put my name in the hat, and I got chosen. And so I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to check it out live. So UFC 3, I went out to that, and I was in the meetings, the planning meetings, when they were, discussing different stuff. Sounds like the entertainment group was. And I remember, just kind of raising my hand and saying, we're going to run into a lot of heat if you guys don't add some more rules to this and everything. And Bob Meyerowitz looks at me and does, like I'm the stupidest guy in the room. I'm like, okay, I had been promoting fights. I've had to deal with boxing commissioners, before these guys did, and so I knew what was going to come. So the format, the thing about it is that people ask me, did I see it growing into what it is today? Well, yes and no. I envisioned this turning into a sport, but Singapore Entertainment Group never did. So as long as they were in control of things, it wasn't going to grow. In fact, we were getting pushed farther and farther down the pay-per-view line, and it was really the fans keeping it alive through chat rooms and stuff like that, and keeping the interest alive. That we really owe, it to the sport, really the fan base, just clinging on to the little bit that we could get,
Sure.
And and then so by the time Zuffa bought cheap.
Right, they made some money on that.
I'm sorry?
They made some money on that one.
Yeah, well, they spent a lot of money too because Silver Entertainment Group did such a bad job of really getting UFC up to the level it is today. I mean, they completely ran it into the ground. But as much as people want to be critical of Zuffa for not paying fighters more and stuff, and believe me, I'm on the fighter side. I wish they would get paid more and stuff. But a lot of people don't realize that they went over $50 million in debt before they started turning around. They bled $50 million before their first pay-per-view actually made any money.
Yeah, that's insane.
So, how many people are willing to bleed $50 million into a concept? So they're, people need to appreciate that too. I don't think people really appreciate that if it wasn't for Dana White's vision, if it wasn't for Zuffa's vision on this, we wouldn't have UFC. So it's kind of a weird catch-22. Yes, I wish the fighters got paid more. I wish they were treated better. But, the reason that they have jobs and everything is because these guys actually persevered a great deal to get it done. The answer is yes, I saw it growing into something, but in the original format, I knew it wouldn't stay. I knew it wouldn't be, we wouldn't be able to sustain it. And so the change of it turning it into a sport, turning with the weight classes, with the time limits, with the rules, it turned it into a major league sport now.
Right. Well, and I totally agree with your point about SEG and Zuffa taking over. But I think you don't give yourself and maybe your team enough credit either, because if it wasn't for the personalities of the Lions Den, and you guys actually going from small city to small city, King of the Cage, different things besides UFC, Pancrase, you guys traveled, I'm sure, more than a military guy. I was in the military and traveled a lot. I'm sure you traveled way more than I did, and you guys did that and made those sacrifices to get that fan base.
Yes and no. Okay, what I would say is, listen, UFC was thrown in the podunk little towns and stuff, and we were in Dauphin, Alabama. We flew everybody in the middle of the night to Dauphin, Alabama to have fights because they exited out in New York the night before. Right. And there was a lot of challenges, and I think that there's a lot of guys out there. I think Lions Den guys, were probably the most publicized guys out there because Ken did a really good job. Ken was, Ken and Hoyce were the two big first, MMA stars, and right. UFC stars. And, Ken did a really good job about, putting together, a format in which we could train, because he had the advantage of the Pancrase training method, which, was very tough and stuff. And so that actually gave us a better format for fighting with the no rules than most of the other guys had. Right. And so that was one of our big advantages that we had back then. And plus we, to be honest, we got a lot of experience, okay? So where do you get experience in the UFC when they're only doing it like 2 times a year or 3 times a year? Where do you get that experience, right? Well, and for me, fighting was my career. People don't realize I had 60 pro fights before I stepped in the UFC. And so, if I'm going to make a career out of this, you can't fight once or twice a year, not with the money that they were paying, right? Right. So a lot of us got the opportunity to go to Japan and fight in various organizations there in UFC. So yeah, and that really was, that was a great time. That was a really fun time in my life. It was the Pancrase days. With Boss Rutan and Frank and all that. Ken was already starting to kind of fade out of the Pancrase deal there and go almost strictly UFC back then. He fought a couple times out there, right. But he slowly faded away by the time, probably about the second year that I was out there, I don't think he fought anymore for Pancrase.
So, but let me ask you, and I'm going off the top of my head, weren't you King of Pancrase one year?
Yeah, I was a 3-time King of Pancrase. I won it 3 times.
Nice, very good.
Yeah.
So, and then this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying that. I think that the Lions Den and the Militiches and guys like, the Militich and stuff like that, where, these were the guys that actually, we were the guys that actually kind of set forth the idea of putting together, a team that and basically a focused pattern of training, because we all kind of shooting from the hip for a while,
Right. And which teammates do you still keep in contact with at the Lions Den? Because you had some big names.
Yeah, in fact, after I get off the phone here, I'm going to call Ken. Ken is going to be fighting Hoist, and he gave me a call, and we're going to be discussing whether or not he's going to come to Dallas for the training.
Wow.
And, that will be interesting.
It'll be a flashback for you a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But it's funny. I talked to Frank just the other day. We haven't talked in a while. And I'm excited about having like friends like that it's you're in the military and stuff. And so when you go through really tough, traumatic situations, scary situations, and stuff like that, build a bond of friendship that you don't always have to be in touch with somebody all the time. I'm not in touch with Frank all the time, but the moment that we actually connected, it was like. I talked to him yesterday.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a great analogy because that's exactly how it is with military guys for sure.
Yeah, and it was we're just catching up on our lives are so much different now. We're dads and husbands and all sorts of crazy stuff. Now
and older.
And I keep, a lot older. And then of course I keep track of Vernon every now and then. I'll talk to him. And Pete Williams, I talk to him I talk to him fairly regularly. And Mikey, I used to talk to him a whole bunch, but he kind of, I don't know what's up with him. I have a hard time getting hold of him. But, it's kind of, we always have that bond, but we also have our lives now that we're doing. They can be a lot different than what they were when we were athletes,
True, and that's a good segue into the next question. So you're out of the Dallas area, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so are you currently training, or do you know any up-and-comers that are around your area that we should keep a lookout for?
I think that there's a lot of, there's a potential of a lot of talent here. There's a, this is the problem that a lot of these guys have. The UFC is a double-edged sword and stuff. I try to explain to these kids, if you're not on the pay-per-view, you're not making any money, because these guys will come up to me and they'll go, I just signed a 5-fight contract with UFC. I said, really? I didn't pay-per-view? Well, I'll be on the undercard, so no, you have to get a pay-per-view.
Right.
And, or I'll be on the Fox show. Now, they're not making very much money on those things, and they're not really 5-fight contracts. They're not 5 guaranteed fights. But they are 5 fights that they're locked into for $5,000 to show up, $5,000 and win. Right? That's what it means. Because UFC can axe them at any time.
Exactly.
It's not really a 5-fight contract. It just locks you into 5 fights at, at 5,000 to win and 5,000 to show, 5,000 to win.
Yep.
And so I look at these guys. I explain to them. I go, guys, I sit there. I go, if you fought, all 5 of your fights in 1 year, and you won each one of them, that's only $50,000. And you got to take all your expenses, taxes, training expenses, all that other stuff out of that. That's a really shitty second paying, part-time job, And, so I try to explain to these guys that making it into the UFC isn't guaranteeing their career.
No.
And this is where the disconnect is. All these guys, all they want to do, and they're young, and I was young like that and stupid like that too. They was like, I want to be the champ. So my first world title fight was for $1,200.
Wow.
Because I want to be the champ, and I thought the money come rolling in after that, and it doesn't.
Right.
I'm kickboxing, and so when these guys do stuff, do I think that there's some really good talent here? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think that they rush themselves too far to get in the UFC too quickly? Absolutely. The moment that they get an opportunity to go to the UFC, are they ready for the UFC? And a lot of the guys here in Dallas that I'm watching are not really ready for the UFC. They're usually, come in 1 or 2 fights and they're out.
Right.
And that's a shame because they'll be on these, and then they go back on the smaller circuits and stuff like that, try to get themselves back. But listen, the fight business is a tough business. People ask me all the time, hey, your kids gonna fight? Hell no, they're not gonna fight. They're gonna have real jobs and real lives.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like if my son tells me he wants to fight, the toughest fight he'll have with me. If he gets past me, maybe he'll have a chance at the show.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. I got old man street coming. So it's like I don't want to rain on any of these guys' parades because there's going to be some guys that do it. But I think that what really needs to happen for a lot of these guys, and this doesn't just go for Dallas, I think this goes for a lot of them, is that these guys need to get into some really good management who understands the game better. Now, a lot of these guys don't really have a great, a lot of these guys, they're all managers. Everybody's a manager, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, okay, great. What are your qualifications, None, They don't have a lawyer background. They don't have a sports background. They don't have a book background. Nothing, right? So they just think they're good. Now, some of these guys do well. I'm not saying they're not. But, what ends up happening is that, if they don't have the right management that's going to be able to get them into the fights that they need, build themselves up, get on as many television fights as they can, like Legacy. Mick is a great guy who runs Legacy. He understands that he's going to lose a lot of guys at UFC and stuff like that. And he's okay with that. You know what I mean?
Right.
He knows where he's at, and he's been very helpful for these guys to be able to do so. So they get guys on TV because Legacy is one of the top rated shows on Access TV, and people come and watch it, and they come to expect a lot. I think Mick's show is gaining more and more and more stature. And so when they start fighting on those shows, stuff like that, the UFC is going to start looking at those athletes. So, hey, get in with a guy like that who can get in and come up and fights, get you out on TV, and get you opportunity for a shot. And, so that's, like I said, it's a tough business, and, it's like you don't want to discourage guys from going for their dreams, but you also want to, temper with a little degree of reality, on what may be the result. I tell guys all the time, listen, fight because you love fighting. Fight because you love being a martial artist. You love pushing yourself. If money comes, great. If money doesn't come, you still won't be disappointed because you always have the opportunity to do what you love. And it's kind of an attitude I try to build with my students, that one can be.
Right. That's a good attitude to have because, along those lines, you talked about, if a guy fights 5 times, in the year, that's 50,000. But what are the odds of him coming out of a fight injury-free? It's not going to happen, so.
But when's the last time you heard anybody fight someone here?
Yeah, you just don't. You don't. No.
Yeah, ever?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Exactly.
Nope.
So let's say they fight 3 times, as you know. So, let's say they fight 3 times and they win those fights. It's still like $30,000. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Which is not a huge amount of money. And of course, taxes come out of that, and then paying for your training comes out of that, and of course, like you said, injuries. How far have you been put back because you broke your hand or something like that?
Exactly. All right, so let's change it up with this third question here because I always like to get a different perspective because I know UFC fighting, it's a very serious thing. I asked Mark Kerr this question when I met him, and he gave me a pretty interesting answer, so I wanted to keep it in there, especially when I met a prominent athlete such as yourself. So if you could go back in time, you can't fight, no fighting allowed, what sport would you try to become a professional in?
Okay, so what I would say is being a passionate athlete and my personality, it'd be football. But being more pragmatic and older and smarter now, it would be baseball.
I knew you're gonna. I had a feeling you're gonna go to baseball because of the longevity of their careers and the money you could make.
Yeah, to be honest, baseball's not. You don't have to be a great athlete to be a good baseball player. Now it helps, but it's a skills-oriented sport. Look how many of the guys out there, these big old guts and all this other stuff, but they crack the baseball, or the pitchers. The pitchers are, a lot of these pitchers are these fat boys,
Right.
And so they're not the greatest athletes, but they have a great skill, and So I mean, I'm 47, relatively good shape, and if I didn't have the injuries I sustained from playing, being rough for sports, I probably could still be playing baseball if
Yeah.
I had the skill.
Sure. All right. So, what would be your greatest achievement? I know you're a big family man, and I know that throwing that question out there, you're going to go to your family. So I'm taking that option out. You can't say your family, but as far as maybe in your professional career, what would you say is your greatest achievement?
I'll be honest with you, man. This is I think what it would be better phrased is like, where in certain parts of your lives do you rate some of your best achievements? Okay, because to be honest, I'm only 47 years old, so I'm probably gonna live another 50 years. Okay, so my greatest accomplishment, it's probably not even done yet.
Okay.
I mean, I'm still waiting to have my greatest accomplishment. Now, I think as certain aspects in my life, what I look at as greatest accomplishments, okay, well, becoming, I mean, I won 6 world championships in 5 separate combat sports. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was a world full contact karate champion, world kickboxing champion, world freestyle fighting champion. I won the UFC tournament. When you had to be the champion, you had to win the tournament. I was the king of Pancrase, and I recently won the Masters World Jiu-Jitsu Championships. Okay, so so I would say that would be a pretty amazing accomplishment. And so I would say, hey, that ranks up there in that. But I also rank the fact that a lot of people thought I finished college, in my 20s and stuff because I wrestled in college, but I really only wrestled 2 years in college, and I got kicked out of 3 schools. And I think one of my best accomplishments is, going back to college in my 30s and finishing my degree in medicine and my PhD in holistic health. I look at that as a great accomplishment, And I also look at one of my best accomplishments is, when I retired, I started a consulting business. Mark Cuban, I talked to his people. He flew me out, and we started HDNet Fights, which is Access TV now, right? Which is Access TV Fights, which is, shows more MMA, help promote more MMA guys than probably anybody else outside the UFC, right?
Right.
And so I think that we did an amazing job with that. And, granted I had a lot of help, but I would put that down as a compliment. So I think different aspects of my life has different achievements for where I put my focus as an athlete. Obviously, winning the world titles, doing that were my apex, But becoming a doctor was it's been pretty cool too. It's nicer to have. I kind of like being remembered more for like helping people than hurting people. So so as I get older, a little softer, maybe my estrogen levels are going up or something. But,
right. So we can't bring up the fact that you choked out Tito Ortiz, then, right? We can't do that.
We can bring that up. That's actually a good compliment. But in all fairness to Tito and that, he was young and inexperienced and stuff like that. He really, love Tito or hate Tito, you can't discount, really what a great fighter he turned himself into,
Sure.
And so, I look at like beating Tito, one of the biggest disappointments in my life is my inability to fight him the third time. Because, my second fight with him, I wasn't hurt. I was exhausted from, I won't even go into excuses, right? I was just tired. I wasn't hurt at all, not one single bit, right?
Right.
And they stopped the fight, and it was like stupid, and then the set, well, of course, all the other antics he did after it didn't really sit well with me either. But the fact is that I want to fight Tito again, and not having that opportunity, that's a big disappointment for me.
I think a trilogy there would have been. I mean, I know that they went the Shamrock way, obviously with his bigger name and all that, but man, a trilogy would have been really nice to see for me anyway as a fan.
Yeah, it's health issues got in the way. So
Yeah.
Because I wanted to, like, I never really felt like anybody I fought I couldn't beat. I mean, yes, I lost to Vanderlei Silva, but I wasn't losing that fight before I got caught,
Right.
And I think that fight could have gone either way. I wasn't losing to Chuck when I got caught by Chuck. I think that I could beat Chuck, you know what I mean? And so, and with Tito, the same thing. Tito out of all of them, was the one that I was least worried about when it came to, like, if I was going to get hurt, right? And so I was like, so really with the, pride shutting down and everything, I knew that if I beat Tito, that I could get in and try and fight the guys that I lost to that I really felt like I could beat,
Right.
I knew that if I beat Tito, that they would let me have a fight with Chuck, or they would let me have a fight with Vanderlei, and I'd like to even up the score with those guys. I mean, I think they're great guys. Don't get me wrong. Chuck is a phenomenal guy. I really enjoy his company. He's a nice guy. Vanderlei, he's a nice guy. I mean, we have a different relationship because his English is not that great. My Portuguese sucks worse than his English, so it's hard to actually be friends with him. So,
right.
But it was never, to me, it was never about personal, like I dislike somebody as much as it was. Those guys were the greatest fighters ever.
Sure. Well, your loss record though is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I was just.
I feel like that era in the '90s and early 2000s was like the golden age of boxing. Everyone always talks about the boxers today, about how they do it. Well, to be honest, the '70s and '80s, late '60s or mid '60s to 1982 was like some of the best heavyweight boxing ever.
Right.
You think about it, man. Larry Holmes, Joe Frazier. I mean, Muhammad Ali. Look at the wars those guys that they had. Ezra Charles, all those guys, right?
Right.
And so you're looking at some unbelievable guys. At any point, those guys could be the champion, and they were. Think about how those fights changed hands. A lot and stuff. And I kind of feel like that the Tito's, the Chuck, me, Vanderlei Silva, Shogun, all those guys like that, Ninja, and some of the other guys like that, were kind of, they were kind of those kind of incarnations of that kind of time. It was just like the time of fights were like hard-nosed fights were thrown, great guys. The fights could have gone either way.
Right.
And so it was, it was kind of a cool time, I think.
Well, I think people would be shocked if they just go to SureDog.com and look at, and I know they don't have all your fights, but it's the who's who of MMA, period. I mean, show me one person that's fought as many big names as you have. It would be a shock. That's for sure.
Probably, someone like Chuck Liddell, I'll be honest, he gets his props. I mean, he does. He does. Everyone recognizes what a great champion he was. But I don't really think people really appreciate how great a champion he was until you really kind of look. He fought everybody. He did not care.
Right.
I'll say something about Chuck about that thing. Is like I said, that brother had confidence in his ability. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And confidence in his ability to win. And he went out there and laid it on the line.
Yeah, he executed it for sure. I got to see him, Chuck Tito too, and watch it live, and it was amazing. He was just a warrior.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so last question. I know I'm taking up a lot of your time, and I really do appreciate you. And this one's fairly deep. So with the studies coming out about, the TBI, traumatic brain injury, and concussions in sports in general, how would you personally? I know you say you're in shape, and you are. I look at your photos on Facebook. You're ripped. You're in shape. But how are you feeling after? Are you feeling the effects of all the battles from over the years?
Well, I told you I'm a doctor, right? So what I work with is a place called the Cerebrum Health Center, okay? And it is a physical therapy for brain injuries.
Okay.
And I work with the vets, and it's funny because metabolic and neurological function is kind of my specialty, right? And
right.
So I go into the center, talking about stuff, and they started talking to me, and it was like they were talking to me in Chinese. I'm supposed to know all this stuff, and I was like, wow, these guys are so over my head. It was crazy. And So I went. I originally went there to help set out a business proposition for a friend of mine. And then, so a funny thing, it turned out the doctor were all big, huge fight fans, right? So really what I did is spend about 10 minutes talking about the brain business and about, 2 hours talking about the fight business. And they mentioned, said, well, hey, if you want, why don't you do some testing, find out where you're at, and see if we can help you. So, and I knew I was having certain issues, because it's either a blessing or a curse, a little of both. Probably I'm fairly self-reflective. I know when I'm not at my best, and I knew I was having some issues, but no one could tell, you know what I mean? And
right.
So I went through the testing, and it was like, holy crap, man! It's like you don't know until it's pointed out to you. And so I went through therapy, and it's like that old saying, nothing more zealous than the convert. And and to be honest, it was great. It was phenomenal for me. I mean, I can't thank these guys enough for what therapy did for me. And it was and so I wanted to get back. They're really great things. So I actually said, hey, let me help out. So I work the vet program with them, and I do a practice called applied movement neurology, which is the functional style neurology about helping brain health with physical movements. I digress. But anyway, so my take on it is simply this: that the brain is a delicate thing. It can be healed. It needs to be, what needs to happen is these athletes need to be smarter in how they train. I had a lot of critics. Really, to be honest, I didn't get hit very much. If you watch some of my boxing fights and kickboxing fights, stuff like that, it wasn't until really in my, early 30s something that I really started getting a lot slower because, I had a ton of fights,
Right, yeah, you did.
Not getting hit doesn't mean you don't get hit. You're just not getting hit that often.
Right.
And, and so the thing is, and I had some other challenges, as you know, I had a stroke that caused me to back out of a keto fight. And then I also have a brain tumor. And I'm not going to die from it, so don't worry.
Yeah, you should have seen the look I just gave you. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I have a brain tumor. They radiated it, and it's dying. But it's a slow-growing tumor, so it does, radiation kills as things grow. So, so they actually radiated this thing. It'll be 3 years in December, and it's slowly going away. But it's causing problems.
Yeah.
And because where it's at, it's in the vesicular part of your brain, which is the ANC area of your brain for your balance and your hearing and stuff. So like I'm almost completely deaf in my left ear because of it.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm very conscientious of the fact of this. I try to talk these guys. I work with professional football players, one of my consulting businesses, and I tell their agents, I go, I won't work with them unless you set money aside that they can come to Cerebrum, get tested before and after the season. And so they do, and they get therapy and stuff like that. And I think it's got to happen. I know you mentioned something in the question you sent me about having a union. Would that help?
Right.
The problem is that, as the fighters and stuff, our arrogance or our excitement or whatever it is, we don't think it's going to happen to us, okay? That's the problem. I'm a pretty smart bear. I knew I wasn't going to be able to fight forever, but, I was still fighting forever. I'm 37 when I retired.
Right.
You know what I mean? I turned pro when I was 20. You know what I mean? So it's like, the problem is that you don't think you're going to get old. You don't think that you're going to get damaged. You don't think these other things. And the problem with brain damage is your brain tells you if you're okay or not. So it doesn't know if it's damaged sometimes.
Right.
Most of the time. Until it's actually pointed out to you that you can't do this, or that this is failing here. This is, your balance is so bad here. So these aren't situations that people normally understand. And I think it's a scary thing. I play football and stuff like this. My son, he plays baseball and he wrestles. I don't want him playing football. I see high school kids and college kids and professional guys being treated there and having, their in bad shape.
Right.
So I think that really needs to be a wake up call, and the fact that you can't sacrifice the rest of your life for a short portion of your life. Like I said, I fought for 17 years. If I live to 100 or close to 100, that's going to be 17% of my life. Am I going to waste, 83% of my life for 17%?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and the thing is, did I think this was going to happen to me? No, of course I didn't think it was going to happen to me. It does, because I'm different. I'm different. Every fighter, the reason he gets in the ring and thinks he can beat another man is because he thinks he's different. He thinks he's Spartacus.
Right.
Okay, all right, and he's different. I don't care what anybody says. That's what they think, and they. And so, there needs to be better precautions for our guys. In their training, in their stuff. The gentleman who died from Houston, he got a brain bleeder while training.
Wow.
His coaches weren't, he wasn't honest enough with his coaches that he was having real issues, and his coaches were not cognizant enough to look out for the issues. Because from what I gather, it was fairly plain to see that he was having issues.
Right.
And they let it go, they let it fight, and he got, ended up, passing away from that. Well, to be honest, with some brain injuries and stuff, passing away is getting off lucky. I've seen some pretty heinous stuff in, at cerebrum, especially with the vets coming back with being blown up and all kinds of stuff. And so I think people need to really slow down, look at their training methods, make them safer. What I used to do, I used to spar the whole entire time. I did a little bit of focus minute work and stuff like that, a little bit of bag work, but mostly all my training is sparring and wrestling. You know what I mean?
Right.
And when I say wrestling, I mean grappling.
Sure.
That's all I did. That's all I did. And now if I had to do it back again, I would limit the amount of sparring I did. You know what I mean? And go back to more drilling and conditioning, things like that, versus just sparring my way into shape.
Sure.
And I think that it's a scary thing, because it's like I love combat sports so much. The shame is I'm 47 and I really can't compete at a world class level anymore.
Right.
Because if I could, I would. And I understand why guys do what they do. It's like it's harder for me to go in these sports that are kind of age adjusted, because I was the champ at one point. You know what I mean? And
sure.
then, so I kind of feel going back there is almost like doesn't kind of feel the same, but. But I understand why there's guys that are competing. People go like, I have a dentist, competes in jiu-jitsu, right? And he's 50 years old. And people go, why would you do that? I go, I was like, well, hell, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you if you could do it? You're only bitching about it because you don't have the guts to do it.
Yeah.
And
right.
so the thing is that it's weird. We just got to be safer about what we're doing. You have to do stuff. And as these healing techniques from like the cerebrum, there's several different companies, and I don't know them offhand by name, but that have similar therapies that do real well. These fighters have got to start putting that into their budget. And what I would really love to see would be something like the UFC, doing some kind of matching deal for these guys' health. If a fighter signs a 5-fight contract, the least they can do is like, okay, we will put if you'll put 5% of your purse into a medical fund, we'll match that 5%.
Right.
And so so let's say they put let's say they put $500, from that $5,000, let's say they put 10%, whatever the number is, they put $500 in, and then, UFC would match that with another 500. So if they had, 3 or 4 fights with them, they would have a couple of grand in the savings that they could cover to pay for insurance or pay for like treatments like cerebrum, which is not inexpensive. It's expensive. So that's what I'd rather see. I'm not sure that the union would work because I think there's too many guys that don't think it's going to happen to them that wouldn't want to join the union.
Right. Yeah, you have to be you have to be unified. That's the whole thing behind a union.
Yeah. With the union to work, you have to have solidarity. The problem is that, listen, you're in the fight business. you win when somebody else loses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I mean, that doesn't breed a huge amount of camaraderie in the sense of if we're all working together on a building, the better we work together, the better quicker the building gets up, right? That's how that works, right?
Right.
You see why carpenters unionize, right? It's going to be tougher for the fighters to unionize, mainly because of the nature of the sport and the nature of the people who get into the sport.
Sure. Well, I mean, yeah, there's not much more real, I guess you could say about that. I want to take the time to thank you for sure. I've always found you. I definitely didn't want to come off as a fanboy, but I love the Lions Den. I love the history. I love the things with you and Tito, and I've watched so many of your fights over the years, and I'm just completely honored that you're my first athlete on 5 Questions with T-Bone.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me know if there's anything else I can do to help you along. I think that you actually had some interesting questions that need to be asked. I think that, the standard question is, what's your favorite fight? Who would you fight if you had the opportunity to fight? And things like that, and I have my pat answers to that. And if you really want that information, you can go, there's 10 different, interviews that all have the same answers because they ask the same question.
Right.
So I would tell you that you had some interesting questions. I think that you should keep up with those, trying to ask interesting and tough questions. Guys have to, like I said, asking guys about the brain, asking stuff like that. You know what I mean? We have to have conversations about that. I mean, we really do. We have to have conversations about that because they are a reality. All right? You can act like they're not, but they're absolute reality in this business. And you got to say to yourself, am I going to, take this risk? And, what are the risks? And then you go in educated and understand that if they make this decision, this is their decision, versus, people don't talk about it. I mean, I played football since, I'm from Texas, right? So I played football
Right.
since I was 5 years old. We played tackle football at 5 years old. Did they tell me at 5 years old that there was a good chance I might have brain damage playing football?
No.
No, I don't remember that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all. In fact, I don't remember the conversation at all at any point. Hell, I thought football season meant having a headache at the start of the season and ended at the end of the season.
They don't explain to you when you get ear hold what it actually is until, because
and they encourage it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've been encouraged,
Yep, exactly.
I mean, football's had 6 deaths in high school this year.
Wow. That's
6
crazy.
deaths.
It's too many.
And all of them all but one were brain-oriented, like brain and head injury-oriented. I think one of them was a heart attack or something.
Right.
So,
Well,
so I would say I would encourage you to ask the tough questions. I would encourage you to, hey, because again, you talk about money, you talk about things like that. These are things that people are uncomfortable to talk about because it pops the reality of, it brings in the reality from their fantasy of, I'm going to be the greatest fighter ever,
right.
And they need to understand that yes, you may be the greatest fighter ever, but is it going to be, is it going to be the type of situation where you're going to be set for life? You're going to do this, and so that realization needs to be talked about. I think if you take on some challenging things like that, you would set yourself apart from the rest of the interviewers. It's not that you can't do cupcake interviews too, but I think that having 1 or 2 tough questions would separate you from the rest of the interviewers.
Roger that. I appreciate you, Guy. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome, bro.
All right, you have a good one.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, that was Guy Mezger, and he hit it right on the head. The TBI question, it is one of those questions that is it's sensitive. It's a sensitive subject, but these guys, the studies that are coming out now, they're saying, oh, MMA is safer than boxing. It's a bunch of bullshit. These guys, because when they're getting hit with the smaller gloves. They're getting hit harder. Did you see Ronda Rousey get knocked the fuck out last night? I did, and it wasn't pretty, and it was brutal. And, you don't see a knockout like that in boxing. You don't. You see some crazy knockout in boxing. It's not the same as MMA. MMA is just absolutely brutal. So I will continue with those lines of questioning. And Guy, thank you so very much for taking time away from your family on a Sunday. I really appreciate it. And that's 5 questions with TBone. TBone out.